Hello, my friends. I'm Glacia, intuitive life coach and Ascension guide. Welcome to my channel, Ascension Consciousness. So this video is post solstice energies, and I'm making this during the month of July. So I think it's like July 17th, 18th, something like that. Maybe time is weird for me. So I want to start out just by giving a lot of you the symptoms, because many people just really want to know the symptoms so they know that they're not falling apart or going crazy. And we really have a lot going on right now, including a lot of these solar flares that are impacting people in a big way. So if you've been tired lately and sleeping or needing naps, you're going through big upgrades. And that's why. So we've got, at times off and on, we've got earth energies that are really shifting dramatically, and it has to do with the grid. So we've got feelings of like spinning or rolling, almost like you're rolling down a hill or you're spinning in circles over and over and over. That can make you have like vertigo or feel pretty dizzy or lightheaded. So that's another really big symptom. Pressure in your head or body. So feeling like all of a sudden this pressure in your head, like, ow, am I getting a headache or what is happening? Or you can feel it in other places in your body too. It doesn't just have to be your head. But headaches is another one too. So having headaches off and on or several days in a row, they can be mild headaches, they can be major headaches. You can end up getting a lot of those during this time too, because we are bringing in so much information. And as we're kind of activating our light bodies, we are starting to have our universal access points activated as well. And those overlay on the body, right? So the universal access points, or the universal chakras, are the higher chakras that allow access into the higher dimensions and kind of connect you into those dimensions anyways, but we're not going too far into that now. So nausea and vomiting, you may notice that you'll just suddenly feel sick. This can come out of nowhere. You can wake up with it, certainly, but it can also just suddenly show up, and it may or may not be accompanied with anything else. So it can be that, you know, you're there sipping your morning tea or coffee or something, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I'm going to barf. And your body is going through such a tremendous change right now. Our bodies are really going through it. And I'm sure that each one of you listening to this, I know that each of you has at least something going on that's different with your body, that you feel different, you know, whether it be with digestion or foods or sleep or tingling in the body, which is another thing. So lethargy and fatigue, no joke here. The lethargy and fatigue, and also feeling like you've been walking through molasses, you know, like you're trying to walk through pea soup or something. So if you've been noticing at times you just can't seem to get anything done, like taking your cup into the kitchen or something after sitting down for a while, you know, it's just like your body doesn't want to do it. So this is where a lot of rest comes into play. And the way that my higher self keeps describing it to me is as infants. So we're going through this rebirthing period into a new reality. And when infants are born, they sleep most of the time, right? And partially that's because they're bouncing back and forth between realities, but also because their body is undergoing such tremendous growth that most of the energy is put into creating new cells and building a body, right? Well, that's exactly what we're doing too. And it looks different because it's a different type of rebirth or a different type of birth process. You know, we're not birthing into physical bodies. We're birthing into our light bodies right now. We're merging our light bodies with our physical body. So when we go through this process, our physical body is just kind of wiped out. It's like it's running a marathon. So be easy with yourself. So the lethargy and fatigue and just sheer exhaustion where, somebody's like, hey, what do you want to do today? And you're like, meh, I want to do nothing, you know? So be easy on yourself. Now, this is something that I really want you to understand is we feel like we have to get everything in. Like there's all these things I have to get done. I have to accomplish this and that. We're very ambitious beings. But when your body's going through this major overhaul and upgrade to exist in a higher dimension, you kind of got to give it some time and space to do its thing instead of allow your mental body to keep driving you forward as if nothing's going on, right? So that's where if you're tired, lay down. If you need a nap and your body is dragging and you're just like, oh, I really need to lay down, lay down. You might even notice sometimes you'll have like an increased heart rate where all of a sudden your heart just starts speeding up and you almost get winded, but not from exercise or anything like that. These are different moments where you're going through accelerated growth and integration of light codes. And then also you could be doing consciousness transportation and, doing things kind of like bilocating. And I know it sounds really crazy. It does. But as all of you on the Ascension path know, this path is full of all kinds of wondrous changes. Like there is no one set path through the Ascension. So everybody's going to do it individually and uniquely for themselves and in their own way and go through their own experiences. Although we will have a lot of overlapping of similar experiences like these symptoms, right? So feeling very detached from the world is another one. Almost like you're looking through a haze out at the world, or you're just watching a movie. You're like, what is going on? Oh, did you hear what they did today? And so it's kind of like that style of living right now where you're still here in the world, but you're looking at it as if you're not part of it, or as if it's this drama, playing out before your eyes where you're like, I don't understand why this is going down the way it is. Why would this be happening this way? There's a lot of weird things happening. So tingling in the third eye and or other chakras. So tingling in the third eye, you may feel, it almost feels like itching inside of your head. And it can be on your head too, like above, where your crown is basically at the top of your head. You could have like tingling there. This is not itching like a rash, although that can be another symptom too. The body is going to be going through all kinds of things like releasing, like skin eruptions and rashes and pimples and different things like that as it pushes out all these toxins and lower energies. Toxins have their own frequency. And then when your body is trying to raise its frequency, it has to kick things out that are maintaining that lower frequency. So that's where you dump all these toxins. You get rid of negative thoughts. You get rid of toxic emotions or toxic emotional patterns. Really, emotions are just messengers. But if you get them in a pattern stuck in your field, then it becomes a toxic pattern, right? So when you clear that stuff, then your physical body can drop the physical representation. So we're formed in like these layers, right? So we've got our emotional layer, mental layer, spiritual layer, physical layer. And when one thing shifts in one body, it creates a shift in other bodies. So they all kind of rearrange. So the tingling, you can feel it in any of your chakras. So sometimes like if you're upset, you can kind of feel tingling in your solar plexus or possibly even like more of a burning sensation. When you're mad, it's like your solar plexus will burn. But with the tingling, it'll feel like a little bit of like pressure along with like a tickling or tingling or itching sensation inside your chakra though. So, some of you might notice that. Now, like I said a moment ago about feeling itchy, that is definitely one of the symptoms too. And I told you why, but so the body is going to be itchy. You might notice skin flare-ups, or you might notice that you're just, a little itchier than usual or uncomfortable in your body. There's a couple reasons for the being uncomfortable in your body. One of them I'll go into in a little bit, but also, so with the transition that our body is moving through right now, you may feel like you've been hit by a train or run over by a truck, or trampled by some horses or something, because the body, all the changes that it's making, and it's getting rid of cellular waste and cellular debris and different things like that, like it normally does, on top of its, transforming to hold more light. And on top of being in a pretty toxic world, there's a lot of chemicals and stuff in foods and stuff. It's really quite a shame what's been done to food on the planet, but and air and even drinks and beverages and things like that. Like, when did artificial things become food? I don't know. Pretty weird. But anyways, so those are some of the primary physical symptoms. Now we're going to keep continuing into a lot of the different symptoms, some of them energetic and and stuff, but I wrote a list down, so I'm just going to kind of go through my list. So after the solstice, what a lot of people notice because of the major up leveling is change in priority, right? So the things that were important, like all these goals, like I want to do this and this and this, suddenly it's like, I just don't know if that's what I want to do anymore, or if that's what, I feel that I want to pour my energy and attention into. When we're shifting timelines, you can be, the analogy that comes up is like if you're going to a city and you're looking up kind of sightseeing or tourist activities, and then you start going to a different city, you have to look up different activities, right? That's kind of what this reminds me of. But where you're just changing where your priority was to go to this museum, now you're like, well, I'm not even going there, so why would I bother planning that? I'm going somewhere else. So that's when we're shifting timelines. We're shifting into the higher timelines. And what we see available from the lower timelines is not just what we see available in the higher timelines. As we rise up, everything expands out. So we create more possibilities. We step into our power more. So we know that we can do a lot more, be a lot more, have a lot more, see a lot more, experience a lot more. So just kind of like when you were a kid and you're like, your big trip was going to, the theme park or going to the water slides or something like that. Now it's like some other vacation. It's not just a little day trip to a park. It's like a week-long vacation doing this or that, So things change when you realize that there's something more available to you. So there's a really big shift in the priorities. So that leaves many people seeking direction. A lot of people are looking for their path forward. They're not sure what to do. In the sessions that I've been doing, a lot of people have said, I just don't know what I should be doing right now. And that's okay. So in this big transition, what I like to let people know is that you kind of have to slow your roll first from what you were doing before, and then start into something different. And that's what this whole kind of global slowdown has been. It's helped us almost like slow down from maintaining a pace in one type of reality and shifting into a different type of reality at a different pace. And so we get to rearrange our trajectory. Really, what do you want? What do you want moving forward? What are the new possibilities that you see? And a lot of people are seeing limitations, We've got a couple more years of this nonsense of like, oh, you can't travel here and you can't do that. And this just domination and control stuff that we've been dealing with. This is not going to last forever. In the Ascension, this is exactly what we're ascending out of and into our sovereignty and into our eternal template again. This nonsense of being controlled by others it's coming to a close. It's not like we can't get along. We can get along. And people, when I'm not going to go into that. When people feel like they have to rebel, they do things or they act from a childish center. It's like they go back to their 2-year-old self and make choices that are not based in the highest good. But when people are able to be put in a place where they're trusted and given responsibility and they know what they're up to and healthy in their mind and body, they'll make good choices usually, for others as well. A lot of people are beautiful, kind-hearted, good-willed people. A lot of people are. A majority of the people are. It's that, you've heard the one bad apple will ruin the bunch. It's kind of, that's what we're dealing with on this planet. The majority of the people are good. A lot of people are a little bit lost right now, which is okay, because then you can find yourself, So seeking direction, seeking purpose, and changing priorities. Those are really huge. Now, we've also been going through feeling like we're losing our lower identity and stepping into a higher level of consciousness. But the lower identity is kind of the ego state, and it's giving us a run for our money. It doesn't want to let go of its seat of power. For many people waking up, the ego is like, oh, no, this isn't going to do. I'm in charge here, right? And really your higher aspects are in charge. It's your highest aspect is in charge of you, and you wouldn't want it any other way, So we're having to face a lot of ego stuff. Now, the beautiful thing is it's not just being played out in like ego battles with others. It's actually being observed by your observer self. So for those of you who have read The Power of Now, you've learned about the pain body and the ego and all of that and the observer. Well, the observer for many is coming online, and that is a function of waking up, going through this spiritual awakening. So with the observer coming online, people will start to notice themselves in a different way, where they may be saying something and they notice it doesn't really sound like them. They're like, why did I say that? That was so stupid, or something like that, which would still be a judgment of the ego, But anyways, it's like you'll start to notice that the ego is throwing a fit, or other people will act very childish. You're like, wow, I see you're throwing a tantrum right now, but it's really because we're going through these timeline completions, through this timeline convergence, and we're having to wrap up all of these old issues, and we're getting down to the bottom of the barrel and kind of scraping the bottom to get these issues under control. And it's really being led by our higher selves. It's something that is unfolding according to your readiness. And many people right now are like, I can't take any more of this. And in a way, that's beautiful, because that means that is when your energy is propelled to create change. And even if it's just asking for change and putting forth that energy out there of change, of asking for something new, of directing towards something new, that creates change in the timelines, okay? So this lower identity, people will find themselves in ego battles with other people, right? Blame, shame, and guilt are big for the ego. So if you find yourself like, I'm mad because I don't get my way, I want it my way, you're facing your ego. You're having to have a showdown with your ego and take charge of your life and take the keys away from the ego, essentially. And it's not that the ego is necessarily bad. It can just get very limited and negative and slow you down and make your life miserable if you let it drive the bus, right? So don't let it drive the bus. So you may have to have a showdown with it, though, and then notice it in other people. Now, if somebody else's ego is triggered, it's no point in bringing your ego forward and having an ego battle. It's really not. Then you just end up creating more problems that you both then have to work out. It's setting yourselves back. It's like if it were a board game, that would be like go back 3 spaces. You just don't want to do that. So if somebody else is in their ego, you rise up. Okay, that's your call to rise up out of your ego and to hold space for both of you. And it is a big challenge, my friends. When your ego gets triggered and you feel those emotions of like, I need to battle this person right now, to take a nice deep breath and recognize they're in their ego and this isn't going to go anywhere unless I stay at my best right now and hold this space. And that means you may need to let their ego get it out and validate what their ego, I hear what you're saying. I understand that you feel that way, that type of stuff to continue the conversation. But we all do need to start showing up as our best and kind of getting our egos under control, because there's a lot of ego battles out there in the world right now. That's the part of us that really drives us to compete with each other too, instead of cooperate. So Um, let's see. So, waking up to new perspectives is a really huge thing too. So that means looking at the world in a way that it's new. Like you didn't see it that way before. Like, oh, I never thought of it that way. And so this is going to be huge for a lot of people as they wake up to the different reality that has been kind of hidden under the programmed reality, you know? So we'll have moments of feeling extremely off or odd, like you're not in this normal reality. So this is one of the big symptoms too. And this is when you're kind of becoming aware of multidimensionality, you know? So what this is like, it can be like some days you can wake up and you recognize the energy's heavy. You know, you look around, things just almost seem darker and heavier and kind of gross, where you're like, yuck, what is this energy today? And on those days, it could be that you were doing something the night before, like massively leveling up or going through some upgrades or activating some codes, and that shifts your vibration, right? So when your vibration shifts, and then you're in the world around you that hasn't really shifted as much as yours has, the world can feel heavier and denser and darker, but it's really that you're lighter. And so the world around you, there's a difference in the way you're perceiving it. So that can be really intense. And when you have those moments where things feel off, and you just have to move through them. You know, one of the biggest things that all of us are going to have to learn to do is to move through our emotions and to sit with things rather than run from them, because we've tended to run to our coping mechanisms like drugs, alcohol, TV, food. But we're going to have to just, avoid the coping mechanisms and actually just do the inner work. It's time, you know. So these very uncomfortable moments, that's where you just sit with yourself and acknowledge, like, wow, I feel really off. I feel really uncomfortable. I don't like this feeling. But it doesn't mean I have to take action. I can just sit with it and be with these energies, because really it's not all peaches and cream all the time. You know, it's just not butterflies and roses or whatever you like. You know, sometimes it's heavy, sometimes it's ugly, sometimes it's dark. It's like this. Everybody has to poop too, you know? So it's one of those things where it's not what you want to do, but you got to sit there and do it sometimes, okay? So with some of these breakthroughs, many of you may be noticing this. I've been having a ton of this lately, is waking up in conversation. So I call it going to night school. And so I wake up in conversation with, I'm not sure exactly who, because I don't remember these conversations. But I wake up saying stuff out loud that's pretty profound. And so I'm having these breakthroughs first thing in the morning to different things that need to be seen, right? So some of you may be noticing that too, where you go to bed and then you wake up and you're like, wow, I understand things so much more today. And, when you're not in your body, the way that your consciousness can experience energy is very different. It's not linear, so you can go essentially take like what would be months of class here overnight. It's not we don't operate by the same rules outside of our physical body. So you may be waking up feeling like, wow, I just know so much more today, or I understand things. Things make much more sense, which we will be having a lot of epiphanies. And I'll get into that in my Lionsgate portal video, which I'll be making soon too. Okay, so the issues and the ego distortions and the negative patterns that people have been in are going to amplify and increase. Now, this is not to make their life harder, but in a sense, it's to make it where they have to face this. It's like it makes it louder. The issues are louder. Like you can't just keep going and trying the same thing over and over, because clearly it's not working. It's getting you to the same thing over and over. And so this is where people are going to have to really listen to their inner guidance around the shifts they need to make and then take action on it. And this is where, kind of sitting in that space of like, I'm not sure what to do. And then asking those open-ended questions of like, okay, what do I do? What do I meant to be doing here on this planet, and kind of getting some insight on direction, and here's this one little thing. People can get caught up in saying, I can't, and instead shift it. It's just words, and shift it to how can I? And in that little shift right there, instead of like, I can't pay my bills, how can I pay my bills? You've just initiated a very different energy in the universe. So one of them, you're making a statement, I can't pay my bills. Okay, everything's lined up perfect for that. The second you say, how can I pay my bills? Suddenly you're shifting your own timeline just by asking that question. You've opened up a new energy. Okay, so it's really important to know that when we're shifting into this new grid, we have to stay positive with our projections. Otherwise, we don't have to. You certainly don't have to. You can be negative with your projections, but then you're going to walk into it, is what I'm saying. So if you want to experience things in a really positive way, then you have to make sure that the way you're framing your life is positive. If you spend most of your time thinking about negative stuff, and then you spend 5 minutes in meditation around something positive, well, you just spent like 8 hours practicing a negative vibration and 5 minutes of positive. That's not going to work. Right? So it's really a lifestyle of positivity to where you're training your mind to shift into the optimism or things like that, which takes a lot of dedication because the mind is naturally wired toward negativity because it keeps itself alive, the body alive that way, kind of not trusting and being pessimistic or skeptical or things like that. Right? Okay. So let's see. So we're having a lot of things loop back around. And I'm only going to talk briefly about this, and then I'll go into it more on the Patreon video, the extended video on my Patreon channel. But so people are having... it seems like the same people come back around, like people from your past, or it can be the same circumstance coming back around from the past, or it can be the same feelings or smells or flavors. So this is part of the timeline convergence and the timeline collapsing that's going on. And it also helps us get in touch with those past feelings, anything that we need to access or activate, from our past or from anywhere in our living expression, right? Any point of creation that we've existed in. And these different smells or tastes or feelings or things like that can trigger up memories. Now pay attention to those memories. And some of them might even be like off-planet memories, or might even be memories from different lifetimes that are not earth-based, right? So we have to wrap up a lot of different things right now in these timelines, and some of them are not earth-based. But anyways, those are some of the things that are going to be coming online for people as they start to remember their multidimensionality and then their eternal being, right? So these memories that come up can be little things that still need to complete, or that can have like a trigger. They can be the point of the trigger, right? So say you get this flavor that reminds you of when you were like 3 or 4 and you were at this event, and then some kid was being really mean and something scared you or whatever, right? And you go back and you're like, wow, I have never thought of this since it happened. It's coming up to be healed. So that's where you kind of dig around and say, what happened in this? What are all the different events? What were all the different feelings? Who was all there? What stories did I make up about this? What did I make this mean about myself? What did I make this mean about the world? What did I make this mean about my relationship with others? Or do I belong or not belong, or whatever, And so you can examine and explore things like that are coming up. But that'll happen in many different ways. Like I said, thoughts, smells, feelings, flavors, and then people can show back up around where somebody will reach out. A lot of people do this through social media or whatever. And they'll just pop up and suddenly you're like, wow, I haven't seen you in like 25 years, or things like that. But anyways, I'm going to wrap this up here. I'll be back with a video for the Lionsgate portal here pretty soon because that starts opening July 26th. And my Patreon, if you'd like, I do interact a lot more over there, and I do revocations to help clear out any agreements that you've unknowingly agreed to that could be holding you back. And also I do guided meditations, and I have a blog over there as well that I write. So that's where I'm primarily at these days, interacting with people is Patreon, and then here on YouTube, tiny bit on Instagram. But that's because Facebook owns Instagram, and I'm just not really a big fan of it. Just kind of feels gross now. So anyways, that's probably just me. But anyways, Patreon is where I'm at for now. And I post all kinds of links and stuff that I'm into and up to over there, and answer questions in the comments and things like that. So if you'd like to engage more, there's that. And then the rest of this video will be over there as well. And my monthly Q&A. And then I do a bonus, just kind of group chat, group healing every month as well. For the patrons. So then we can connect and just talk about different things coming up, and people can ask questions and all of that. So anyways, the energies have been really intense and will continue to be really intense. We've got a lot of solar activity and then a lot of celestial activities coming up that are going to greatly impact the planet and the collective and the mindsets of the collective. So I will be back making that next video very shortly. And thank you so much for being here with me. You're amazing. All of you are just so spectacular and amazing on this ascension path. It just takes such a strong person to truly commit to this tough work that you're doing. So thank you so much for making this world a better place by being here and for showing up at this amazing time on the planet. Much love, my friends. Talk to you later.